The ruins were cold, even under the weak light of a broken moon. Black stone towers stood like dead teeth. Wind pushed ash across the ground in slow waves. Nothing moved for a long time, and that silence felt like a threat. In the middle of the ruins, an orc woman sat alone on a fallen wall. She was big, strong by nature, but right now she looked small. Her shoulders shook. She tried to keep her crying quiet, but the sound still escaped her like air from a cracked pipe. She pressed one hand over her mouth, then wiped her face with the back of her wrist. The tears left dark lines on her dusty skin. Her name was not spoken here. In this place, names did not matter. Only marks mattered. On the side of her neck was a burned symbol, rough and ugly. The exile mark. It was fresh enough to still hurt. It said to any orc who saw it, "Leave her. Do not feed her. Do not shelter her. If she comes close, drive her away. If she follows, kill her." She stared at her hands. One knuckle was split. Dry blood sat under her nails. Her breathing was uneven, and she hated herself for it. Orcs were taught not to cry. Orcs were taught to die with a hard face. But she was not dying yet, and that made the pain worse. A soft hum passed above the ruins. Her head snapped up. The sound was thin and smooth, like a metal insect. She froze so hard her muscles hurt. Her eyes tracked the sky between broken roofs and jagged beams. A small drone slid across the open space, its belly light blinking red for a second, then off. It scanned. A faint line of light swept the ground. It moved over stone, then dust, then the place where she sat today. The orc woman held her breath. Her heart hit her ribs like a drum. She did not move, not even to blink. The skin line paused near her knee, as if it was thinking. Then the drone drifted away. Her lungs burned. She breathed again, slow and silent. She waited for the drone to return, because it always returned. It was not hunting for fun. It was hunting with a goal. She lowered her eyes and whispered to herself, "Not now. Please, not now." A different sound followed. Footsteps. At first they were far away, almost hidden by the wind. Then they came closer. Not heavy like orc steps. Not rushing. Controlled. Even. The orc woman slid off the fallen wall and moved behind a broken pillar. She picked up a cracked blade from the ground. It was not a real sword, just a piece of metal shaped by fire and anger, but it could cut, if she got close. Her hand shook as she held it. She hated that too. The footsteps stopped. The orc woman leaned forward and looked through a gap in the stone. A human soldier stood at the edge of the ruins. He was tall, but not as wide as an orc. He wore gray armor with dust on it. A rifle hung ready across his chest, but he did not lift it. His helmet visor was open, showing a calm face and tired eyes. A small light on his shoulder blinked once, then went dark, like he had shut something off. He did not step in fast. He did not shout. He looked down at the ground. The orc woman watched him closely. Humans were supposed to fear orcs. Humans were supposed to hate them. That was what she had been told since she was young. Yet this human was studying footprints and blood marks like a hunter reading a trail, not like a man ready to panic. The soldier took one step into the ruins, then another, slow, quiet. The orc woman pressed her back to the pillar. She could run, maybe, but her leg hurt. A deep cut burned under the cloth wrap. Running would leave a trail. The human stopped again. He turned his head slightly, as if he heard her breathing. The orc woman raised a broken blade and growled, a low sound from deep in her chest. She wanted it to sound strong. She wanted it to sound like an orc warrior, not an exiled thing hiding in rubble. The human looked toward her hiding place, but he did not aim his rifle. He lifted his empty left hand, palm out. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. His voice was steady, not loud, not soft, just real. The orc woman did not answer. Her mouth was dry. The blade felt heavy. She wanted to lunge, to attack first, because that was the old rule. Strike before you are struck. But something in his face held her back. Not kindness like a story. Something harder. Control. Training. Orc. The human said, still not moving closer. "I saw the mark." The orc woman's throat tightened. She touched her neck without thinking, then pulled her hand away like the touch burned. She hissed, "Do not speak of it." "I won't," he said, "but it tells me you're alone." She let out a bitter laugh that sounded like pain. Yes, alone. Now leave. The human's eyes moved over her. He saw the torn cloth, the dried blood, the way she leaned to keep weight off her injured leg. He also saw her blade. He nodded once, like he accepted the facts. Then he reached slowly to a pouch on his belt. The orc woman tensed. Her blade rose higher. If he pulled a grenade, she would charge, even if she died. Instead, he pulled out a small med pack. He did not open it. He did not hold it out like a gift. He tossed it lightly onto the ground between them, not close to his boots and not close to her hiding spot. It landed with a soft thud in the dust. There, he said, if you want. The orc woman stared at the med pack. Her eyes narrowed. Humans use tricks. She knew that. They could hide trackers, poison, anything. You think I'm stupid, she said. I think you're hurt, the soldier replied. She did not move. The wind pushed Ash over the med pack, covering one corner like a slow burial. The human took a careful step back. I'm going to lower my rifle, he said, as if he was speaking to a wild animal. I'm not your enemy. The orc woman's laugh came again, sharper this time. Humans kill orcs. Bad people kill, he said. Not humans. Those words hit her in a strange way, like a stone thrown into still water. They made small ripples in her mind, but she forced them down. She tightened her grip on the broken blade. You should fear me, she said, trying to put strength into her voice. I can tear you apart. The soldier nodded again. Maybe, but you haven't. He was right. She could have rushed him. She could have tried, but she didn't. A part of her did not want more blood. Not today. The hum returned. The drone came back, sliding between the broken towers like a ghost that did not care about wolves. The orc woman's eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no words came. The human's posture changed. Not panic. Focus. He tilted his head, listening. A faint beep sounded from his shoulder, then cut off again. He had shut down his signals, but the drone did not need his signal. It needed heat, motion, life. The drone's red light blinked. A scan line swept the stone again, faster now. The human turned toward the orc woman. His voice dropped to a whisper. They're searching for you. She swallowed. You don't understand. I understand enough, he said. If they find you, they'll burn this whole place. The orc woman's hands began to shake again, and this time she could not hide it. Her eyes went dark with fear and anger. I am cursed, she said. They will not stop. The soldier's face tightened. No one is cursed, he said, but his words were cut short. A thin red dot appeared on the stone near his shoulder. A target laser. The soldier moved in one smooth motion. He grabbed the orc woman's wrist and pulled her hard behind the pillar, deeper into cover. His grip was strong, but not cruel. He did not yank her like a prisoner. He moved her like a teammate. The orc woman almost attacked him by reflex, but the laser dot slid across the pillar's edge, and she understood. Someone had a sight on them. The human placed a finger to his lips. Quiet. A metallic voice echoed through the ruins, cold and flat, coming from the drone speaker. Target confirmed. Orc signature. The orc woman's blood turned to ice. She looked at the human, shocked. He looked back, jaw tight. Stay low, he whispered, and don't run yet. The drone's red light blinked again. Far away, engines answered. More than one. Reinforcements were coming. The engines outside grew louder, then faded, then came back again, like wolves circling a wounded animal. The human soldier stayed still behind the pillar, one hand on his rifle, the other hand open near the orc woman's wrist, not holding her now, but ready to pull her again if she moved. The orc woman's chest rose and fell fast. She hated that the human had touched her and that she had not fought back. She hated that she needed cover like a weakling. But the drone's metal voice still echoed in her mind. Target confirmed. The soldier leaned close, barely moving his lips. What's your name? She almost laughed. Names were useless here. Names did not stop bullets. Don't, she whispered. They will hear. They already heard the drone. He said, I need something. A name, so I know who I'm saving. The orc woman stared at him, confused by the word saving. Orcs did not save. Orcs took, crushed, ruled, or died. That was a story. Yet here was a human saying it like it was normal. After a short pause, she said, Gracia. The name tasted strange in her mouth, like she had not used it in a long time. The soldier nodded once. Gracia. Just call me Reed. Reed, she repeated, testing the sound. The drone hovered somewhere ahead, scanning again. Its light painted the broken stones in quick lines. Behind it, shadows moved, shapes of people in armor stepping into the ruins. Reed lifted his wrist and tapped something on his glove. His shoulder light stayed off, but a small screen on his forearm glowed for half a second. He shut it down again fast. They are closer than I thought, he whispered. We move now. Gracia's eyes narrowed. Move where? Reed pointed with 2 fingers toward the ground behind them. There's a service tunnel. Old. Half collapsed. But it'll hide your heat. Gracia shook her head. You don't know these ruins. Reed's mouth tightened. I know enough. I saw vents. I saw old power lines. This place used to be a station. People built ways out. Gracia wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him to leave her. But the engines outside were not from normal soldiers. They sounded heavier, colder, and the drone's voice had been corporate, not military. That was worse. She swallowed. My leg. I saw, Reed said. Can you walk? I can, she lied. Reed did not call it out. He only nodded and shifted his body so he was between her and the open space. Follow my steps, he whispered. If you fall, you don't yell. If you must breathe, breathe slow. Gracia gripped her broken blade. It felt childish now beside Reed's rifle and armor, but it was all she had left of pride. They moved. Reed stepped out first, quick and quiet, using shadows like wolves. He kept low, eyes scanning, rifle close but not raised. Gracia followed, limping through dust and broken glass. Pain shot up her leg, but she bit it down. Her tusks pressed into her lower lip until she tasted blood. A scanning line swept near them. Reed froze. Gracia froze too, her body shaking from the strain. The light passed over a cracked doorway 3 meters away, then slid on. Reed waved her forward with 2 fingers. They crossed a wide-open patch where the roof had fallen away. Moonlight poured in. Gracia's skin felt exposed, like the sky could see her shame. A shadow moved above. Gracia's head snapped up. For 1 second she saw the drone, then Reed threw a small metal disc across the ground. It landed and clicked. A burst of heat blinked on the disc, like a small living thing. The drone turned toward it, attracted to the false signal. Reed pulled Gracia hard into a narrow gap behind a broken wall. Quiet, he whispered. Gracia stared at him, stunned. Orcs use strength. Humans use tricks. She hated that the tricks worked. They slid along the wall and reached the dark opening half buried by rubble. Cold air breathed out of it. The tunnel. Reed crouched and peered inside, then nodded. This is it. Gracia hesitated. Then we move fast, Reed said. He went in first. The tunnel smelled like rust and old water. Broken cables hung from the ceiling like dead vines. Reed kept his light off and used a small lens on his glove that glowed faintly, like a tiny moon in his palm. Gracia followed, limping deeper. Each step sent pain through her leg. She could feel warm blood under the wrap. Her vision blurred for a second, then cleared. She forced herself to stay awake. Behind them, the drone's voice returned, louder now, echoing into the tunnel mouth. Target lost. Search pattern expanding. Reed's jaw tightened. They're good, he whispered. Not regular troops. Gracia's breathing became rough again. They are not here for war, she said. They are here to erase. Reed looked over his shoulder at her. Erase what? Gracia did not answer. Her throat locked. The truth was a blade inside her chest. If she said it out loud, it became real. They moved through the tunnel for several minutes. The ground sloped downward. Water dripped from somewhere above. The only sound was their steps and Gracia's quiet, controlled breathing. Then Reed stopped. Gracia almost bumped into him. She caught herself on the wall, grimacing. Reed lifted a hand. Halt! Ahead, the tunnel opened into a wider chamber. It looked like a storage room from the old station. The floor was cracked, and metal crates lay scattered. But something else was there. A smell. Grasha knew it first. Not just blood. Something older. Rotten dust. Reed crouched and moved forward slowly. He reached the edge of the chamber and looked down. Grasha followed, her heart sinking. Below the cracked floor was a pit. Bodies lay inside. Not fresh. Old. Covered in ash and debris. Some were orc. Some were human. Some were smaller. Different shapes. Other species that had no place in the old stories Grasha had been told. There were too many to count. Grasha's stomach turned. A low sound escaped her. Half anger. Half pain. Reed's face went hard. His eyes scanned the pit like he was trying to measure the evil. This isn't a battlefield, he whispered. This is a dump. Grasha's hands trembled again. She forced them still and stared at the bodies. A memory struck her. Elders speaking in secret, a door closing, a scream cut short. She backed away from the chamber edge, breathing fast. Reed turned to her. You knew, he said quietly, not accusing, just seeing. Grasha swallowed. I saw something, she admitted. Once. Reed stepped closer but kept his tone calm. What did you see? Grasha stared at the tunnel wall, not at him. I saw my own leaders, she said. The words came out like broken stone. I saw them trade live for metal and power. Reed's eyes narrowed. Orc leaders. Grasha nodded once. Her throat tightened. They called it duty. They said it would save our people. But I saw cages. Reed did not speak for a moment. He looked back at the pit. Then he looked at her exile mark. His voice dropped even more. They branded you because you saw the truth. Grasha's lips curled with bitterness. They branded me because I spoke. Reed's hand slowly moved to the med pack on his belt. Sit, he said. Grasha flinched. No, Grasha, he said, and a name sounded strange in his mouth. You're bleeding. If you pass out, we both die. She hated that he was right, but her pride was weaker than her blood loss. She lowered herself onto a broken crate and held her legs stiff, jaw clenched. Reed opened the med pack and pulled out a spray seal and a clean wrap. He did it fast, professional. He did not look nervous around her tusks. He did not treat her like a monster. That annoyed her almost as much as it calmed her. He cleaned the wound. It burned. Grasha hissed and almost struck him. Reed did not pull away. Breathe, he said. In. Out. Grasha forced herself to obey, shocked again that she was obeying a human. As he wrapped her leg, Reed asked, Who's hunting you? Your people or mine? Grasha stared at him. Not yours, she said. Not mine. Reed paused. Then who? Grasha's eyes shifted toward the tunnel behind them. The hum of engines was faint now, but it was still there, like a promise. The ones who pay, she whispered. The ones who buy leaders. Reed's face tightened. A corporation. Grasha nodded. They wear no flag. They fear no law. Reed finished the wrap and stood. His posture changed, like a switch flipped in him. He became colder, sharper, not cruel, ready. We need proof, he said. Grasha laughed without humor. Proof won't save me. Reed looked at her, and his eyes held something steady again. Maybe not, he said, but it might save others. Grasha did not know what to do with that. Orcs did not think like that. Orcs did not build plans for strangers. Yet Reed spoke like it was normal. A small sound clicked in the darkness. Reed raised his rifle instantly. He lifted his hand to stop Grasha from moving. From the tunnel behind them, a small rolling object entered the chamber. It was round, smooth, like a metal ball. It stopped, and a tiny blue light blinked. A tracker. Reed's eyes widened. They found the tunnel. Grasha's heart slammed. How? Reed stared at the blinking light, then at the ceiling cables. They didn't need to see us, he whispered. They only needed to follow heat and blood. Grasha's face went pale. She looked down at her wrapped leg. The blinking light pulsed faster. From far behind, a new voice echoed into the tunnel. not the drone's metal voice. A human voice, cold, clean, and confident. Package located. Move in. Reed backed toward Grasha, rifle up. His mouth was a thin line. Stay behind me, he said. Grasha gripped her broken blade again, but now she also grabbed a piece of pipe from the crate, heavy and solid. Footsteps entered the tunnel, many, fast, controlled. Not soldiers, hunters, and the blue light on the tracker blinked like a heartbeat. The footsteps in the tunnel came closer in quick waves. They were not loud, but they were sure. Trained people moved like that. No wasted steps, no fear, no noise unless they wanted it. Reed stood in front of Grasha, rifle raised, body angled to cover the tunnel mouth. His breathing was slow. His eyes did not blink much. Grasha held a broken blade in one hand and a heavy metal pipe in the other. Her leg still burned, but the fresh wrap held the blood. She forced herself upright, leaning her shoulder against a crate. If she fell now, she would die on the floor like the bodies in the pit. A shadow crossed the tunnel entrance. Then a smooth voice spoke again, calm and cold. Human soldier, step out. You are not our target. Reed did not answer. The voice continued, almost friendly. You are in a restricted cleanup zone. Your presence is an accident. We can fix this. Put the rifle down. Walk away. Grasha's lips curled. Clean up. That word tasted like rut. Reed spoke quietly, not to the tunnel, but to Grasha. They want you alive. Grasha shook her head. No, they want me quiet. Reed's jaw tightened. He looked at the pit again, then back to the tunnel. His finger rested near the trigger, but he did not fire. Not yet. A small object rolled into the chamber, another tracker ball, blinking blue. It stopped near Reed's boot like a bold threat. Reed lifted his foot and crushed it with a single stomp. The blue light died. Grasha stared at him. Orcs crush things. Humans avoided waste. Yet Reed crushed it without a second thought. That meant he was scared or angry. The voice in the tunnel changed tone. Bad decision. A sharp click followed. A flashbang. Reed reacted instantly. He threw his body sideways and grabbed Grasha's arm, pulling her down behind the crate stack. The flash exploded in the chamber with a white burst that filled the air. The sound hit like a hammer. Dust fell from the ceiling cables. Grasha's ears rang. Her vision swam. She clenched her teeth and kept her eyes open, forcing them to focus through the light pane. Reed kept one hand on her shoulder to keep her low. With the other hand, he tossed a small disc across the floor again, one of his heat decoys. It slid into the open, pulsing warm like a living body. Two figures rushed in from the tunnel, weapons up, aiming at the decoy's heat signature. Reed fired twice. Short, controlled shots. Not rage, not panic. The first attacker fell. The second stumbled, then rolled behind a crate, returning fire in fast bursts. Bullets snapped through air and struck metal with hard sparks. Grasha's heart pounded. She wanted to charge. Orc instinct screamed. Close the distance. Break the enemy with force. But Reed whispered, Wait! Grasha hated waiting. Yet she stayed down, because Reed's voice was not fear. It was strategy. Another attacker entered, moving low and fast. This one wore matte armor with no flag. A black visor hid the face. The soldier moved like a machine with a human inside. Reed shifted position and fired again. The attacker dodged behind a pillar, then threw something small and silver. A drone the size of a fist lifted into the air, buzzing, scanning fast. Grasha felt her stomach drop. More eyes, she whispered. Reed's eyes narrowed. They are building a box around us. The drone's light flickered, mapping the chamber, searching for living heat. Reed reached to his belt and pulled a slim knife. He did not throw it. Instead, he took a deep breath and waited for the drone to pass near the hanging cables. When it did, Reed stood for 1 second and slashed the cable clean. The heavy wire dropped like a snake and wrapped around the drone's body. The drone buzzed in panic and crashed into the wall, sparking, then died. Grasha stared at Reed again. He did not fight like an orc. He fought like the ruins themselves were his weapon. The tunnel voice returned. Closer now. You are interfering with company property. Reed shouted back, You're dumping bodies. The voice went quiet for half a beat, then replied with a thin smile in the sound. Bodies are waste. Waste is cleaned. Grasha's hand shook with rage. Monster, she hissed. Reed glanced at her. Can you move? Yes. She lied again. Reed did not argue. He pointed to the far side of the chamber where an old service door hung half open. We go through that door. There should be a maintenance hall behind it. Grasha leaned forward to look. The door was across open ground. Too open. Gunfire snapped again. A burst hit the crates near them, shredding old plastic, sending dust into Reed's face. He did not flinch. Reed pulled a small smoke capsule from his pouch and flicked it across the floor. It bounced once and popped, spreading thick gray smoke that filled the chamber fast, turning everything into shadows. Now, Reed said. He grabbed Grasha's forearm and moved. He stayed low, running in sharp bursts. Grasha limped hard, forcing speed, using the pain like fuel. The smoke hid them, but it also hid the enemy. That was the danger. A shape appeared on the left, an attacker with a silent rifle. Grasha reacted first. She swung the metal pipe with both hands. The pipe hit the attacker's wrist with a dull crack. The rifle fell. Grasha didn't stop. She slammed the pipe into the attacker's helmet once, twice. The attacker dropped without a sound. Grasha's chest heaved. Her hand shook again, but now it was anger, not fear. She looked down at the attacker's armor. No flag, no name, only a small logo on the shoulder. Simple, clean, like a company mark. Reed pulled her onward. Don't look, he said. Move! Another attacker stepped out of the smoke in front of them, close. Reed raised his rifle, but the attacker already had a weapon up. Grasha moved without thinking. She drove her broken blade forward, under the attacker's arm where armor plates separated. The attacker gasped and staggered back. Reed fired once and the attacker fell. Grasha stood there for half a second, shocked at her own speed. She had acted with Reed, not against him, like a team. Reed did not praise her. He only said, "Good, door." They reached the service door. Reed shoved it open with his shoulder. It groaned like an old animal. Behind it was a narrow hall with pipes along the walls and a line of old lights hanging dead. They entered, and Reed slammed the door partly shut, leaving a small gap. He pulled a thin strip from his pouch and placed it along the door edge. "Step back," he whispered. Grasha limped away from the door. Her breathing was loud now. She tried to quiet it, but fear and pain mixed together. The footsteps in the chamber shifted. Voices murmured, short words, calm, efficient. Someone touched the door. Reed's strip beeped once, then went silent. A small shock popped. Not a huge blast, but enough. The door shuddered and sparks jumped from the metal frame. A sharp smell filled the hall. A voice cursed softly on the other side. Reed turned to Grasha. "We need distance. They will cut through." Grasha swallowed. "They will chase until I am ash." Reed stared at her for a moment. His eyes looked tired, but there was steel under the tiredness. "Then we don't let them catch you," he said. Grasha blinked. "Why?" Reed did not answer right away. He started moving down the hall, scanning corners, listening. Grasha followed, limping, gripping the pipe like a club. After a few steps, Reed spoke, voice low, "Because if this is real, if your leaders and their buyers are doing this, then it's bigger than you." Grasha's throat tightened. "My people will not listen." "Then we make them listen," Reed said. They reached a broken junction where the hole split left and right. Reed paused, eyes narrowing. He lifted his wrist and tapped his glove again. His shoulder light stayed off, but his forearm screen flickered. Grasha noticed something. Reed was trying to contact someone. Quietly. His screen showed one word before he shut it down. "Denied." Reed cursed under his breath. Grasha leaned closer. "What is denied?" Reed's jaw clenched. "My command. My extraction. Everything." Grasha stared. "They left you." Reed did not deny it. His eyes were hard now, not with fear, but with a cold kind of anger. "They are telling me to walk away," he said. "To leave you." Grasha's lips curled. "That is what soldiers do. They follow." Reed turned and looked at her fully. His voice stayed calm, but there was heat under it. "No," he said. "That's what tools do." For a moment, the hole felt even colder. Behind them, metal screamed. The service door was being cut. A bright line of light spilled into the hole gap, like a blade. Reed grabbed Grosh's arm again. "We go left," he said. "It slopes up. We find an exit." Grosh swallowed. "And then?" Reed's eyes stayed forward. "Then I break their plan." They ran. Reed fast, Grosh limping but pushing through pain. The cutting sound behind them grew louder. Sparks rained. A chunk of the door hit the floor. Then a new sound filled the hole. Heavy boots. Close now. The hunters were inside, and the cold voice followed them through the smoke and sparks, closer than before. "Reed," the voice said, speaking his name like it owned it. "We expected you." Reed froze for one breath. Grosh's eyes widened, because Reed had never told her his real name, only a call sign. So how did they know? Part 4. Part 4. Truth of the Exile. Reed did not stay frozen long. One breath, then his body moved again like a machine with a purpose. He pulled Grosh forward into the left corridor, keeping her close to the wall. The hole rose slightly, and the air felt less damp. That could mean an exit, or it could mean a trap. Behind them, the hunters' boots hit the metal floor in steady rhythm. They did not rush like angry soldiers. They moved like they had time, like they knew the ruins belonged to them. The cold voice followed, calm and sharp. "Reed, you can still walk away. You don't need to die here." Grosh's mind spun. They expected him. They knew his name. That meant Reed was not just a lost patrol. He was part of a plan, even if he did not want to be. Grosh glanced at Reed's face. His jaw was tight. His eyes were focused ahead. But something else was there too, anger and a kind of disgust, like he had stepped into something dirty. He whispered to her, "Don't answer them." Grosh almost laughed. "I was not going to." The corridor opened into a small room with broken consoles and a dead screen on the far wall. A vent shaft sat low near the floor, half blocked by rubble. Reed crouched fast and pulled away loose stone with his hands. "In," he said. Grosh stared at the vent. It was narrow. She was big. Orc shoulders were not made for tight spaces. "I won't fit," she hissed. Reed looked up at her. "You will." Turned sideways. Grosh's pride fought her, but the boots behind them were closer now. She lowered herself and pushed into the vent. Metal scraped her armor scraps and skin. Pain shot through her injured leg, and she almost cried out, but she clenched her teeth and kept moving. Reed climbed in behind her, then reached back and shoved rubble into place to hide the opening. It was not perfect, but it broke the line of sight. They crawled in darkness. The vent smelled like dust and old oil. Grosh's breathing was loud in her own ears. Reed moved behind her in a quiet rhythm, like he had done this many times. Below them, the hunters entered the room. Grosh heard their voices through the metal. Short words. Controlled. Then the cold voice spoke again. Closer now, almost amused. "Search the left corridor. She's bleeding. She can't go far." Grosh's stomach turned. They were tracking her blood. Like animals. Reed whispered. Grosh pushed forward. Her shoulders scraped hard against a bolt, tearing skin. She did not stop. The vent dropped into a wider shaft, and they slid down into a dark maintenance hall. Reed landed soft. Grosh landed heavier, but Reed caught her arm to keep her from falling. Grosh pulled away, ashamed. Reed did not comment. He scanned the hole and moved toward a doorway that led into a larger chamber. He paused at the edge, listening. Grosh stepped beside him, leaning on the wall. "They knew you," she whispered. "How?" Reed's eyes stayed on the dark chamber ahead. "I don't know," he said, but his voice had a small crack in it. Not fear, something personal. They entered the chamber. It looked like an old command room. Broken glass covered the floor. A large screen hung cracked on the far wall. On one side, a metal cabinet stood half open, and inside were dead data drives stacked like thin books. Reed's breath changed. He stepped toward the cabinet like he had found a treasure. "This station had records," he said softly. "If anything survived, it might be here." Grosh shook her head. Records don't stop hunters. No, Reed said, but records can break them. He reached into the cabinet and pulled out a small data core. It was black and scratched, but the seal looked intact. He turned it over in his hands, checking ports. Grasha watched him. Humans cared about proof. Orcs cared about strength. Yet this human was risking his life for a piece of metal. She swallowed hard. "Reed," she said, forcing the word out. "Why did they expect you?" Reed did not answer right away. He plugged the data core into a small reader on his wrist. The screen flickered, then showed lines of code and old station logs. His eyes moved fast. Then his face went still. Grasha felt a cold pressure in her chest. "What is it?" Reed's voice came out low. "This isn't just a ruin. It was a transfer point." Grasha frowned. "Transfer of what?" Reed looked at her, and for the first time his calm broke. "People," he said. "Prisoners. They moved them through here." Grasha's throat tightened. She looked away, because she already knew. She had seen cages. She had heard screams behind closed doors. Reed scrolled. His wrist screen showed a date stamp and a list of shipments. Not food, not medicine. Living cargo. Grasha's hands began to tremble again. "Stop," she whispered. Reed looked up. "You need to tell me everything," he said. "Now, before we die." Grasha's jaw clenched. She wanted to stay silent. Silence was safer. Silence was what the elders demanded. But silence was also what created the pit of bodies below the station. She forced herself to speak. Years ago, before the exile mark, Grasha had been part of an orc war band. She had earned a place with strength. She had fought humans and other tribes. She had followed orders, because that was what warriors did. Then one winter night, the elders called the band to the Holy Hall. They spoke of a great threat. They said the tribe needed protection. They said a powerful ally would help them, an ally with ships, weapons, and food. The elders said the price was simple: obedience. Grasha remembered standing among warriors as the elders lifted a metal case, shining under torchlight. It had no orc markings, only a smooth logo like a circle split by a line. The elders touched it like it was sacred. They promised the tribe a future. But Grasha was not blind. She noticed how the elders' eyes moved, nervous, greedy. She noticed the way strangers in black armor stood behind the curtains, silent and still. That night, Grasha followed one elder in secret. She moved quietly through the back halls and reached a door she had never seen open before. 2 guards stood there, orc guards, but their armor had new metal plates, too clean, too perfect. Grasha waited in shadow until one guard stepped away. Then she slipped close enough to hear voices. Inside, a stranger spoke. "Calm, cold. The quota must increase," the stranger said. "Your tribe is behind." One elder replied, voice shaking. "We gave you the last group, young and strong." The stranger answered, "We need more. Your enemies are not the only supply." Grasha's blood turned cold in her memory. Supply. She heard the sound of a child crying. Grasha pushed the door open just a crack and saw it. Cages. Metal bars. Orcs inside, hands bound. Some were from rival clans. Some were from her own tribe, people labeled weak, trouble, cursed. The elders stood there, watching, while the strangers checked tags on wrists like animals in a market. Grasha did not understand at first. Then she did. The elders were not protecting the tribe. They were selling it. Grasha backed away without a sound, stomach turning. She ran into the night and tried to warn others. She spoke to warriors. She spoke to mothers. She spoke to anyone who would listen. But the elders moved faster. They called her cursed. They said she had seen a demon vision. They burned the exile mark into her neck for all to see. And when she ran, the hunters followed. Grasha finished speaking, and the room felt heavy like stone. Reed's eyes were locked on her. He did not look shocked. He looked like a man who finally found a missing piece of a puzzle that had been cutting his mind for years. "That's why you were exiled," he said. Grasha nodded once. Her voice was rough. "I did not betray my tribe," she whispered. "My tribe betrayed me." Reed glanced at the wrist screen again. He scrolled to a file, then froze. His mouth went tight. "What?" Grasha asked. Reed turned the screen slightly so she could see. She could not read the human words well, but she saw one line repeated in large text. Asset, Reed, field guide. Grasha stared. Asset. Reed's face went hard. They used me, he said. Grasha's eyes narrowed. How? Reed swallowed, then spoke with controlled anger. I was sent here weeks ago. Quiet mission. No broadcast. I thought I was hunting smugglers. His hands curled into fists. But this log says I was meant to lead them to the evidence. To the survivors. To you. Grasha's chest tightened. So you were bait. Reed nodded once. Yes. Silence filled the room. Then, from somewhere above, a faint buzz returned. Another drone. Maybe more. The hunters were close. Grasha's voice went cold. Now you understand, she said. No one escapes them. Reed looked at her exile mark, then at the pit log on his screen. His eyes burned with something sharp. No, he said. Now I'm done playing their game. He pulled the data core out of the reader and held it tight. This is proof, he whispered. We get it out. We send it wide. We burn their clean story. Grasha stared at him. They will kill you. Reed nodded. They already tried. He looked around the chamber. His eyes found a broken console with an old power port. Help me, he said. We need to copy this. Grasha hesitated. Orc pride told her to run alone. Orc fear told her she could not trust humans. But Reed had saved her twice, and now he was risking his life for her truth. She stepped forward. Tell me what to do, she said. Reed connected the data core to the console. He hit a manual switch. For a second, nothing happened. Then the console lights flickered. Weak power crawled through dead wires like a dying heartbeat. A small progress bar appeared on Reed's wrist screen. Copying. The chamber door opened wider, inch by inch, as if the person outside wanted to feel the fear first. A thin line of light spilled across the floor, cutting through dust and broken glass. Grasha lifted the metal pipe in both hands. Her arms were strong, but her leg felt weak. The pain was still there, sharp and hot. She planted her good foot and tried to steady her breathing. Reed stood beside the console, holding the data core like it was a beating heart. The copy had finished, but that did not matter now. The beacon had betrayed them. Reed's eyes moved fast across the room, searching for exits, tools, anything. The cold voice spoke from the doorway. We can end this clean. Step away from the orc. Hand over the core. Reed raised his rifle. You're not getting her. A figure stepped into view. Not a normal soldier. The armor was smooth and black, with no flag and no rank. The helmet visor reflected the chamber lights like dark glass. On one shoulder was a small logo, simple, clean, and easy to miss. Behind the first figure came more. 3, then 5. They spread into the doorway like water finding cracks. Grasha's stomach tightened. Too many, too controlled. Reed whispered, When I say move, you run. Don't fight unless you must. Grasha's lips curled. Orcs fight. Reed's eyes stayed forward. Humans survive. The first hunter raised a weapon. It was shorter than a rifle, but heavier. A pulse gun. Quiet. Clean. Reed fired first. 2 shots. Sharp. Fast. The hunter's armor sparked, but the figure did not fall. It stumbled back 1 step, then steadied. The armor had plating Reed's round could not punch through. The hunter spoke again, voice filtered and calm. Standard rounds won't help you, Reed. Reed clicked his tongue once, annoyed at himself. Then his hand moved to his belt. He pulled a small cylinder and threw it at the doorway. The cylinder popped with a loud crack and released a bright spray of sparks. Not a flashbang, something different. The sparks stuck to armor and burned hot for a second, forcing the hunters to step back. Grasha stared. What was that? Reed whispered, thermal flare paste. The smoke and heat confused the doorway scanners. For a moment, the hunters' advance slowed. Reed grabbed Grasha's arm. Move! They ran to the far side of the chamber where the cracked screen hung. Behind it, Reed had spotted a narrow service gap. Grasha limped hard, teeth clenched. Her breath came in short bursts. Her muscles wanted to fail, but she forced them to obey. Behind them, the hunters pushed through the heat flare. Fast again. Their boots were heavy now. Closer. Reed shoved his rifle through the gap first, then pulled at the screen frame. It shifted with a screech. Dust fell. He pushed again and made the opening wide enough for a human. But Grasha was bigger. She tried to turn sideways and push through. The metal edges scraped her shoulder and tusk. Pain flared. She almost got stuck. Reed pulled her by the forearm. Come on. Grasha growled and forced her body forward with a boast of strength. The screen frame bent. She broke through into a narrow maintenance space behind the wall. Reed followed, then shoved the screen back into place as best he could. It would not hold long, but it would slow them. They were in a tight corridor filled with dead wires and broken cooling pipes. The air was warmer here. A faint hum moved through the metal, like old power still lived in the walls. Reed moved quickly, leading her down the corridor. He looked left, then right, and stopped at a panel on the wall. A manual access panel with a hand wheel. He grabbed it and twisted. It resisted at first, then turned with a groan. Grasha heard the hunters behind them again. The screen was being pulled away. Reed yanked the panel open and revealed a vertical shaft. A ladder ran down into darkness. Down, Reed said. Grasha stayed at the ladder. Her legs screamed at the idea. Reed looked at her, not unkind, but firm. If we stay here, you die. Grasha's jaw clenched. She grabbed the ladder and began to climb down. Each step hurt, but she moved anyway, one rung at a time, breathing through clenched teeth. Reed climbed down behind her. Above, the corridor filled with boots and voices. A hunter shouted. They went into the shaft. Reed climbed faster. He reached Grasha's level and moved past her with one hand, then set his boots against the shaft wall, stopping his fall. He reached back and pulled Grasha down with him, faster but controlled. For 1 second, Grasha felt the strange truth again. The human was treating her like a teammate. They reached the bottom of the shaft and dropped into a wide utility tunnel. It ran straight like a throat, with side doors every few meters. Old warning signs clung to the walls. Reed looked up the shaft. A hunter's head appeared at the top, looking down. A thin scanning beam slid down the ladder. Reed grabbed a loose metal plate from the floor and shoved it under a pipe joint. Then he pointed at Grasha. Hit that pipe. Hard. Grasha did not ask why. She lifted the pipe club and slammed it into the rusted line. Metal screamed. The pipe cracked. A burst of pressurized steam exploded upward into the shaft. The scanning beam disappeared. A shout came from above. Fall back! Reed nodded once. Good. Grasha's chest heaved. You plan fast. Reed's voice was tight. I had to learn. They ran down the utility tunnel. The floor was slick in places. Grasha's limp got worse, but she pushed. Her fear was fuel now. After a minute, Reed stopped at a door marked with faded text. He wiped dust from it. Emergency lift. He pulled the handle. The door popped open. Inside was a small lift cage, old but intact. A manual control lever sat on the side, covered in grime. Reed stepped in and tested it. The lift shook once, then the old motor coughed to life with a deep groan. Grasha stared. It works. Barely, Reed said. Get in. They entered the lift cage. Reed pulled the door shut and slammed the latch. Then he yanked the lever down. The lift jerked upward. Grasha gripped the cage rail to steady herself. Her mind was still spinning from the beacon, from the hunters, from the bodies in the pit. She glanced at Reed's wrist. He had the copper. But proof was also a target. Above them, something struck the lift cage roof. A heavy impact. The lift rattled. Reed looked up. They are climbing, he muttered. A blade cut into the roof metal, slow and precise. Sparks fell like bright rain. Grasha's hands tightened. They will open it. Reed's eyes moved fast. He looked around the cage, then found an emergency hatch on the side wall. It was small, but it led into a maintenance path beside the lift shaft. He shoved it open with his shoulder. When I say jump, you jump into that side path, he said. Grasha frowned. Jump? My leg. Reed's voice stayed firm. Better pain than death. The cutting above grew faster. Sparks fell heavier now. A corner of the roof bent inward. Reed watched the lift reach a higher level. He counted silently, eyes focused, like timing a shot. Then he shouted, "Now!" He grabbed Grash's arm and pulled her sideways through the hatch. They fell into the maintenance path, a narrow metal ledge with a rail. Grasha hit the ledge hard, pain exploding in her leg, but she stayed conscious. Reed landed beside her, absorbing the impact like he had done it before. The lift cage kept rising without them. Above, the roof of the cage tore open, and a hunter dropped into it like a shadow. Grasha and Reed were hidden in the side path, pressed against the wall. The hunter did not see them. It scanned the empty cage floor, then looked up, confused. Reed's eyes narrowed. He leaned close to Grash's ear and whispered, "Humans win with minds." Then he pulled out a small remote and clicked it once. The lift's motor screamed. The cage shot upward suddenly, too fast for the hunter to hold balance. The hunter slipped, grabbed at the cage rail, then lost grip. It fell. The impact below echoed like thunder. Grash's eyes widened. "You!" Reed didn't smile. "They are not here to capture," he said, voice hard. "They are here to erase." Grasha swallowed. She understood that word now in the deepest way. A new sound came from Reed's wrist device. A soft beep. He looked down, and his face changed. "What?" Grasha asked, breathless. Reed showed her the screen. A message flashed in clean text. "Secondary team inbound. Purge authorized." Grash's blood turned cold. "Purge!" Reed's jaw tightened. "They are going to burn the whole station." A sudden voice crackled through the hunter's comms, leaking into the tunnel speakers nearby. It was an orc voice, old, harsh, familiar. Grasha froze. Her eyes went wide. "No," she whispered, because she knew that voice. It belonged to an elder. And the elder said, calm as stone, "Leave no witnesses. The exile dies today." Grash's body went stiff when she heard the elder's voice. For a second, the ruins around had disappeared. She saw the holy hall again in her mind. She smelled smoke. She felt the hot iron bite her neck. The exile mark. Reed watched her face and understood without asking. "That voice?" he whispered. Grash's jaw trembled. "Elder Kravok," she said, the words bitter. "He burned my mark." Below them in the station, alarms began to wake. Old speakers crackled. Then a flat warning voice filled the air. "Purge sequence active." A low vibration rolled through the metal walls, like the station was afraid. Reed looked down the maintenance path. "We need an exit to the surface," he said. "Now!" Grasha stayed into the darkness ahead. "Even if we escape, my people will hunt me." Reed's eyes were hard. "Not if they hear the truth from your mouth and see proof in their eyes." Grasha almost laughed. "Orcs do not listen." Reed leaned closer. His voice stayed simple, but it carried weight. "Some will. The ones who still have hearts." They moved along the narrow maintenance path, using the rail to keep balance. Grasha limped, but she kept going. Each step felt like a knife in her leg. She refused to show weakness. Not in front of Reed. Not now. Ahead, the maintenance path opened into a service bay. A large door stood half open, bent from old damage. Cold outside air spilled in. Moonlight cut across the floor in pale lines. Reed's eyes scanned the opening. "That's our way out." Before they could move, a shadow stepped into the door frame. Black armor. No flag. Smooth visor. A hunter. It raised a pulse gun. Reed fired, but the hunter's armor ate the shots again. The hunter stepped forward like it did not care. Grasha felt rage rise in her chest. She surged forward, swinging her heavy pipe. The pipe smashed into the hunter's weapon, knocking it sideways. The pulse shot hit the wall instead, burning a hole in metal. The hunter turned to Grasha. It moved fast, too fast for heavy armor. It grabbed her wrist and twisted. Grasha grunted. The broken blade fell from her hand. Pain flashed. Grasha tried to headbutt, but the hunter slammed a forearm into her chest and threw her back. Grasha hit the floor hard, breath knocked out. Reed stepped in immediately. He did not try to outmuscle the hunter. He did something smarter. He pulled out a small magnetic clamp and slapped it onto the hunter's backplate. The clamp beeped once. The hunter froze for half a second, just half. But half was enough. Reed shouted, "Now, Grasha!" Grasha forced herself up. She swung the pipe with all her strength and hit the hunter's knee joint. Metal cracked. The hunter dropped to one knee. Reed fired again, aiming at the weak point now exposed. The shot punched through. The hunter collapsed, heavy and still. Grasha breathed hard, staring at it. What was that clamp? Reed wiped sweat from his brow. "Field lock," he said. "It messes with their armor balance for a moment." Grasha narrowed her eyes. "You came prepared." Reed's face went tight. "I didn't know it was them, but I trained for bad people." The purge alarm sounded again, louder. Purge in 5 minutes. Reed and Grasha moved through the service bay and out into the open ruins. The air outside felt cleaner, but danger did not disappear. In the distance, small lights moved. Drones, patrols, maybe ships. Grasha's eyes searched the ruined skyline. "They will burn everything," she said. Reed nodded. "That's why we don't just run. We turn this." Grasha looked at him sharply. "Turn it how?" Reed tapped the data storage on his wrist. "Proof. We find a transmitter. Something strong enough to blast this out." Grasha's laugh was harsh. "In this dead place." Reed pointed toward a tall, broken tower in the center of the ruins. "That used to be a comm tower. The frame is still there." Grasha followed his gaze. The tower leaned like a wounded giant. Cables hung from it like hair. If it still had power, even weak power, it could send something. But getting there meant crossing open ground. And the hunters were between them and the tower. Reed and Grasha moved low, using rubble for cover. They advanced in short bursts. Run, hide, listen, move. Reed always looked ahead first, then moved. He planned each step like a puzzle. Grasha watched him and felt something strange. Respect. Not because he was strong, but because he did not let fear control him. A drone passed above, scanning. Reed pulled Grasha under a collapsed metal sheet. The drone skin line swept over them, then moved on. They kept going. Halfway to the tower. Orc voices. She froze. Reed stopped with her. "What is it?" Grasha peered through a crack in the rubble. A group of orc fighters was moving toward the tower. They wore tribal armor, but mixed with clean metal plates. Too new, too perfect. Their eyes looked hard, like they had swallowed someone else's orders. At their center walked Elder Kravok. Old, heavy, powerful. His neck was covered in symbols of rank. His hands were wrapped with rings of bone and metal. He moved slowly, because he did not need to move fast. Others moved fast for him. Grasha's stomach twisted. "Is he?" she whispered. Reed's eyes narrowed. "With a corporate team." Grasha's hand shook with anger. "He will call me demon again. He will turn my people against me." Reed's voice stayed steady. "Then we make him speak in front of them." Grasha stared at Reed. "He won't." Reed pointed to the tower. "He thinks you're alone. He thinks you're weak. We change that." The purge alarm echoed again. "Purge in 3 minutes." Reed and Grasha slipped closer, moving behind broken walls. They reached a higher platform that overlooked the area near the comm tower. Below, Kravok stood with the orc fighters. A corporate hunter team moved with them, silent and sharp. Kravok raised his voice, loud enough for all to hear. "The exile carries a curse," he said. "She brings death to all who touch her. Find her. Kill her. Burn the proof." Grasha's chest burned. She almost jumped down to attack him right there. Her muscles tightened. Her tusk bared. Reed grabbed her shoulder. "Not yet," he whispered. "We need the crowd." Grasha hissed. "They will not listen." Reed looked her in the eye. "They will listen when the lie cracks." He turned on his wrist device and pulled up the copied files. He selected a short audio clip from the station logs, voices from the secret meeting, the elders' deal, the quota talk. Reed's finger hovered over play. Grasha stared at him. "If you play it now, they will shoot us." Reed nodded. "Yes." Grasha's eyes widened. "Then why?" Reed's voice was calm, almost cold. "Because this is the only window. Before they burn everything. Before your people forget. He hit play. A speaker on Reed's device crackled. The audio came out sharp in the open air, louder than Grosh expected. The quota must increase, the stranger's voice said. Your tribe is behind. Gasps rose from the orc fighters below. Heads turned. Confusion spread like fire. Krivok's face changed. For the first time, the elder looked shaken. Reed raised the device higher to broadcast better. The audio continued. We need more, the stranger said. Your enemies are not the only supply. Silence hit the group below. Heavy silence. The kind that made hearts beat louder. One orc fighter stepped back, eyes wide. Another shook his head, like he was trying to wake from a bad dream. Krivok roared, Lies? But his voice sounded thinner now, because the words were too clear, too real. Grosh's throat tightened. She stepped forward from cover, just enough for them to see her. Her exile mark caught the moonlight. Many orcs flinched when they saw it. Some lifted weapons. Some looked away in shame. Grasha raised her voice, loud and raw. I saw the cages, she shouted. I warned you. He branded me for speaking. Krivok pointed at her with shaking anger. She is cursed. She brings ruin. Grasha took a step forward, limping but standing tall. No, she shouted back. You bring ruin. You sold us. The crowd below swayed. Doubt moved through them. Doubt was dangerous. A corporate hunter shifted position and raised a weapon toward Grasha. Reed saw it. He fired once, not to kill, but to force the hunter to duck. The shot sparked off armor. The moment broke. Krivok shouted, Seize them. Some orc fighters moved forward, still loyal. But not all. One young orc, face tense, lowered his weapon. His eyes flicked from Krivok to Grasha's mark and back again. He whispered, Is it true? Grasha looked at him, breathing hard. Her voice softened just a little. Yes, she said. Look at the dead. Look at the buyers beside him. The young orc's jaw worked. Then he stepped sideways, away from Krivok. Another orc followed. Then another. The line cracked. Reed's eyes sharpened. Now, he whispered to Grasha, we have allies. The purge alarm screamed again, louder than before. Purge in 1 minute. Krivok's face twisted with fear and rage. He turned to the corporate hunters and shouted, Do it! Burn it all! Above the ruins, a deep hum grew, bigger than drones, bigger than engines. The sky itself seemed to vibrate. Grasha looked up. A ship moved through the clouds, dark and wide. Lights on its belly began to glow, lining up like eyes. Reed's voice dropped, tight with urgency. Orbital fire lock, he whispered. Grasha's blood turned cold. Because the purge was not just fire in the station. It was fire from the sky. And a burst of gunfire snapped near the tower base. A hunter was moving in, using rubble as stepping stones. Grasha raised a pipe. I'll hold them. Reed nodded. 10 seconds. Grasha stepped out from cover, limping into a position where she could block the path. The hunter saw her and did not slow. It raised a pulse gun. Grasha charged. The pulse shot hit her shoulder, burning through cloth and skin. Pain flared white-hot. She roared and kept moving. She swung the pipe hard, smashing the hunter's weapon aside, then struck the helmet once. The hunter staggered. Grasha struck again. The hunter dropped, armor clanging against stone. Grasha stood over it, shaking, breathing hard, shoulder burning. She looked back at Reed. 10, she gasped. Now! Reed's knife moved fast. He cut one line. Sparks jumped. The relay unit flickered. The sky tone changed, just slightly. Reed cut a second line. The relay lights died completely. For one terrifying second, everything went quiet. Then Reed's wrist device beeped. A new message flashed. Targeting signal lost. Orbital lock interrupted. Grasha's eyes widened. She looked up. The ship's belly lights dimmed. The deep tone faded like a dying drum. The ship drifted slightly, as if confused. They had stopped it. Reed's shoulders dropped for one breath. Then he snapped back into motion. We're not done, he said. They will try again. Across the ruins, Krivok saw the ship lights dim. His face went pale with fury. He screamed at the hunters, "Restore the lock!" A hunter shouted back, "Signal is dead!" Krivok's eyes locked onto the comm tower, onto Grasha, onto Reed. He raised his hand and pointed. "Kill them! Now!" But something had changed in the crowd. The orcs who had hesitated before were no longer unsure. They had just watched their elder try to burn them from the sky. They had seen the human and the exiled orc stop it. A deep rumble of anger rose from the tribe. The young orc stepped forward, weapon lowered but voice loud. "You would burn us," he shouted at Krivok, "for your deals." Krivok snarled, "You are fools." Grasha stepped onto a broken slab near the tower, making herself visible. Her exile mark was clear in the moonlight, but she did not hide it now. She spoke in a strong, rough voice. Simple words. True words. "I was not cursed," she said. "I was warned. I saw cages. I saw buyers. I saw our elders sell us." Reed raised his wrist device and tapped a button. The station log audio played again. Loud. Clear. The stranger's voice. The quota. The supply. The lie had no room left. The hunters shifted, ready to fight, but the number of orcs turning against them grew quickly. Anger is a strong fire when it is finally lit. Reed leaned toward Grasha and whispered, "Now we broadcast wider." Grasha frowned. "How?" Reed lifted his device toward the tower's damaged antenna. Even with the relay cut, the tower could still send a message out. Not a control signal, just a scream into the dark. Reed hit transmit. The proof went out on open channels. The Elder's deal, the cage logs, the body transfer list. Everything Reed could push through the weak link. Somewhere far away, someone would hear. Krivok's face twisted as if he could feel the world changing under his feet. He backed up, looking left and right for loyal hands. But loyalty was dying. Two orcs stepped toward him. Their eyes were full of anger and shame. Krivok tried to speak, but the words would not hold power anymore. The hunters began to fall back, reading the crowd. They were trained, but even training has limits when a whole group turns into a storm. Reed grabbed Grasha's arm gently, this time not pulling, not controlling, just steadying her. "We did it," he said. Grasha looked at him, breathing hard, shoulder burning, leg shaking. Her eyes were wet again, but she did not hide it now. She whispered, "Why did you stay?" Reed looked at her exile mark, then at the orcs gathering behind her, uncertain but listening. He answered with simple truth, "Because you were right, and because fear should not write the ending." Grasha's throat tightened. She looked at the ruins that had been her cage. Then she looked at the people behind her, people who were finally seeing. For the first time since her exile, she was not sitting alone. She was standing, and others were standing with her. Above, the ship drifted away, its lights dim, its fire stopped, and the night, for the first time in a long time,